When both of you go silent, it doesn't mean peace. It means the battlefield just moved inside, because what happens next isn't mutual healing. It's a psychological split where one person stabilizes and the other begins to unravel. If this resonates and you're committed to staying no contact, pause here and remind yourself. Clarity feels boring compared to chaos, but boring is where healing lives. When both you and a narcissist go no contact, the situation appears symmetrical, but the inner experience is drastically different, and understanding this is crucial. For most people, the idea of mutual silence might seem like relief, a clean break where both parties step away and life continues. But the reality is far more complex. When a narcissist also goes no contact, it's rarely about emotional healing or accepting responsibility. Their initial response is often one of relief rather than loss. Relief, because for the first time, they no longer have to manage your reactions, your emotions, or the chaos of interpersonal engagement that feeds their sense of control. Unlike you, who may be experiencing discomfort as your body recalibrates after years of hypervigilance and emotional labor, the narcissist is temporarily shielded from the stress of emotional accountability. This creates a paradox. Outwardly, both parties are silent, but inwardly, your nervous system is detoxifying while theirs is still intact, untouched by the consequences of empathy or introspection. As days pass, your silence begins to do its work. You start noticing the subtle reclaiming of your personal power, whether it's the ability to make decisions without second guessing, the return of sleep patterns, or the simple relief of not anticipating manipulation. Meanwhile, the narcissist may begin to feel an internal shift, not a healthy one, but a destabilizing absence. They realize that without your reactions, without your attention, their carefully maintained sense of identity begins to wobble. This isn't grief in the human sense. It's a realization that the system they relied on, the system that validated them, elevated them, or protected them from self-reflection, is gone. The longer the no contact lasts, the more their internal agitation grows, and this is where many misunderstand the dynamic. The silence doesn't hurt them in the way it hurts a person capable of self-reflection. It irritates, it frustrates, it threatens the sense of control that underpins their personality. Meanwhile, for you, the silence becomes a space for healing, for processing, for recalibrating your self-worth and boundaries. What looks like a mutual pause is, in fact, a divergence in inner experience. One party moving toward recovery, the other toward internal destabilization. And this difference is what makes no contact such a profoundly transformative act. When a narcissist is forced into no contact, the absence of your responses removes the very leverage they rely on to maintain control. For them, relationships are rarely about mutual care. They are a system of supply, attention, validation, and emotional reactions that reinforce their identity and self-esteem. When you withdraw, you aren't just leaving the relationship physically, you are dismantling the structure they built around themselves. Initially, they may interpret your silence as temporary or inconsequential. They tell themselves that you will return, that the dynamic will reset, or that you will eventually give in to emotional manipulation. This is the early stage where relief may even mask agitation. They feel free from confrontation, but only because the source of discomfort is temporarily absent, not because it has been resolved. Over time, as no contact continues, the narcissist begins to experience a subtle yet mounting internal pressure. Silence removes their mirror. Without your reactions, they cannot gauge their perceived power, influence, or relevance. Unlike you, who are experiencing freedom and nervous system recalibration, they face destabilization because their identity is heavily dependent on external validation. Every message they don't get, every reaction they can't provoke, creates cognitive dissonance. They may replay interactions, rewrite memories, or obsess over your behavior, trying to regain the illusion of control they've lost. Your absence starts to act as a mirror of their own inner emptiness. No one feeding their sense of importance exposes the fragile structure beneath their confidence. While outwardly they may appear composed, internally they are experiencing the erosion of certainty, the destabilization of a self that cannot exist without supply. Meanwhile, your experience is the inverse. Your silence allows reflection, emotional clarity, and self-reclamation. The longer no contact continues, the more your boundaries solidify, and the more the narcissist experiences this as a threat to their carefully constructed identity. This dynamic illustrates why no contact is so powerful. It is not about punishment. It is about creating a condition where healing and destabilization occur naturally, depending on which side of the mirror you occupy. This is why the silence you maintain is far more than absence. It becomes the catalyst for internal transformation, allowing you to regain autonomy while forcing the narcissist into a space of increasing uncertainty, agitation, and eventual self-confrontation. When no contact is established, the narcissist initially experiences what might look like calm or even relief, but it is far from genuine peace. Unlike someone capable of introspection, a narcissist interprets silence strategically rather than emotionally. At first, they may feel untethered, believing that without your presence, they are free from scrutiny or emotional responsibility. This phase can last days or weeks, giving the illusion that they are unaffected. But the truth is, this calm is a temporary mask over an underlying tension. Silence removes the familiar patterns of engagement, the rehearsed reactions, the subtle validation, the emotional triggers they rely on to feel competent and in control. Without these cues, their sense of identity, which is externally anchored rather than internally rooted, begins to face a quiet but growing threat. As the days stretch into weeks, the narcissist may start noticing the absence in ways that trigger internal agitation. Unlike grief, which involves reflection and emotional processing, this agitation stems from lack of supply. They are confronted not with the loss of a relationship, but with the loss of a resource that maintained their self-image. Every unanswered text, every ignored call, every boundary you enforce begins to challenge their belief that they are indispensable or dominant. They may rationalize, rewrite scenarios in their mind, or even fantasize about regaining control because the external silence forces them to confront the void they cannot fill internally. Meanwhile, your experience is entirely different. Your nervous system, conditioned for hyper-alertness, begins to downshift. Anxiety fades, perspective returns, and clarity grows. The same silence that destabilizes them nurtures your recovery. What looks like equal withdrawal is, in fact, a divergence of experience. For you, it is detoxification. For them, it is an identity threat. This is why no contact is often more powerful than confrontation. It doesn't provoke a reaction. It reveals the narcissist's reliance on supply and exposes the fragility of their sense of self. By remaining firm in silence, you allow healing to occur organically on your side while forcing a slow, often unconscious unraveling on theirs. demonstrating that true power in disengagement lies not in anger, words, or retaliation, but in consistent, unyielding absence. When silence stretches on, the narcissist begins to confront a reality they are ill-equipped to process. The absence of validation exposes the fragility of their identity. Unlike someone who experiences no contact as a chance to reflect or heal, they experience it as a threat because their self-worth is almost entirely external. The lack of attention, emotional reactions, and access to your inner life creates a vacuum where their sense of control used to be. Initially, they may respond with denial, convincing themselves that your silence is temporary, or that you are overreacting, that you are emotional, or that you'll return when your emotions settle. This rationalization is part of their strategy to maintain a sense of dominance over a situation that is slipping from their grasp. As time continues, subtle shifts begin. The narcissist may replay interactions in their mind, dissect conversations, and even fantasize about ways to regain influence. Their agitation is not rooted in remorse or self-awareness, but in the absence of external regulation. Every unanswered message, every ignored attempt to provoke emotion becomes a mirror reflecting their dependence on external validation. While they may try to appear unaffected, the internal dissonance grows. They are forced to face the fact that their usual tools, charm, manipulation, rage, or guilt, are no longer operative. The silence you maintain is a destabilizing force, revealing the cracks in a persona that depends on constant supply to sustain itself. Meanwhile, on your side, the effects are entirely different. You begin reclaiming autonomy, noticing small shifts in your emotional and cognitive patterns. Decisions feel lighter, thoughts become clearer, and the space for personal reflection grows. The longer no contact persists, the more your boundaries solidify, and the more the narcissist experiences this absence as a threat to their self-concept. Mutual silence is never truly mutual. It benefits one party while destabilizing the other. Recognizing this difference is crucial to understanding why staying firm in no contact is one of the most powerful tools you have. It is not punishment. It is a natural, revealing process that allows your healing while exposing the narcissist's reliance on external supply, forcing them into a slow internal unraveling that they are rarely capable of processing consciously. This is why consistent no contact is transformative. It does not require confrontation, explanation, or emotion. It simply lets the dynamic reveal itself fully, on your terms, in your absence. Once the initial agitation sets in, the narcissist often experiences a subtle but relentless internal pressure that grows over time. This pressure doesn't come from love, regret, or emotional attachment. It comes from the absence of supply, the very thing they depend on to maintain their sense of self. Narcissists exist in a feedback loop. Their confidence, identity, and sense of importance are validated by the reactions, attention, and emotional energy of others. When you withdraw completely, you are effectively cutting the wires to their internal power grid. At first, they may ignore this absence, distract themselves, or rationalize that your silence is temporary. But as days and weeks accumulate, the absence becomes impossible to ignore. Every unanswered message, every boundary you enforce, every refusal to engage quietly undermines their sense of control. The narcissist may start monitoring your behavior obsessively. They replay conversations, Imagine scenarios where they regain influence and strategize ways to elicit a response. This is not introspection or self-reflection, it is a tactical attempt to restore supply. In essence, no contact transforms from a simple withdrawal into a psychological mirror. It reflects back the dependence they have on external validation. While outwardly they may appear calm or composed, internally the lack of access to your emotions, reactions, or attention creates an identity threat. Without supply, the carefully constructed persona they rely on starts to feel hollow, unstable, and inadequate. Meanwhile, for you, the silence is restorative rather than destabilizing. Your nervous system begins to settle, anxiety fades, clarity and perspective return. You are able to process experiences, reclaim autonomy, and rebuild boundaries without interference or manipulation. This contrast is why mutual no contact is so deceptively powerful. On your side, it facilitates healing and growth. On theirs, it creates tension and internal agitation. The longer it continues, the more the power dynamic shifts, even though no words are exchanged. What begins as quiet absence becomes an invisible force that accelerates your recovery while subtly unbalancing the narcissist. In this way, no contact is less about punishing the narcissist and more about reclaiming yourself, letting silence do the work that confrontation could never achieve. This period, when both sides are silent, is transformative. One person grows stronger and freer, while the other is forced into a slow, often unconscious unraveling that exposes the fragility of their identity. As the weeks of no contact continue, the narcissist begins to experience what feels like an invisible pressure building inside, a tension that cannot be easily named or dismissed. Unlike someone capable of introspection who can use silence to process and heal, the narcissist interprets the absence of your reactions as a threat to their sense of self. They have long relied on external validation to feel competent, important, and in control. Without access to your attention, your responses, or your emotional energy, their internal system starts to wobble. Initially, they may tell themselves that your silence is temporary, that you are overreacting, or that you will return once your emotions settle. But these rationalizations are increasingly ineffective as the reality of your absence sinks in. This stage often triggers subtle but persistent behaviors designed to regain control. They may replay past interactions in their mind, scrutinize your online presence, or imagine ways to provoke a response. These strategies are not about reflection or growth. They are about restoring the supply that keeps their identity intact. Every ignored message, every reinforced boundary, every moment where you do not engage becomes a mirror showing the gap between the persona they present to the world and the fragile identity that depends on your attention. The longer the silence persists, the more destabilized they become, because their system was never designed to self-regulate without external feedback. Meanwhile, your experience is almost the exact opposite. Your nervous system begins to settle. The hypervigilance that has been a constant companion starts to ease, and clarity and perspective grow naturally. You are processing experiences, reclaiming autonomy, and rebuilding boundaries without interference or manipulation. The longer you maintain no contact, the more your power and sense of self are restored, while the narcissist's internal tension continues to rise. This contrast illustrates why no contact is so powerful. It is less about punishment and more about natural consequences. Silence allows you to heal, reclaim your life, and rebuild your emotional framework, while simultaneously forcing the narcissist into a slow, unintentional unraveling. In this way, mutual no contact creates a divergence that transforms the dynamic entirely, revealing the imbalance in emotional dependence and control that underpin the relationship from the start. As no contact continues, the narcissist's internal experience shifts from initial calm to creeping frustration, agitation, and an almost obsessive focus on what they've lost, or more accurately, what they no longer control. For them, the absence of your responses is not a space for reflection. It is a vacuum where their identity begins to wobble. Their sense of self has never been built on internal stability. It relies entirely on the emotional feedback, attention, and validation they extract from others. Without your reactions, the carefully maintained structure that supports their self-image starts to feel unstable. At first, they may ignore it, distract themselves, or rationalize that you will eventually return. But as the silence persists, the reality of your absence begins to gnaw at their composure. During this stage, their thoughts often become preoccupied with ways to regain control. They may replay conversations, reinterpret past events to their favor, or imagine scenarios in which they provoke a response. This is not self-reflection. It is a desperate attempt to recover supply. Every boundary you enforce, every unanswered attempt, every refusal to engage becomes a constant reminder of their dependence on external validation. This absence threatens the core of their identity, creating tension that they cannot resolve internally because their self-worth is contingent on supply. Meanwhile, your experience is entirely different. Silence begins to heal your nervous system. Your thoughts become clearer, emotional reactions stabilize, and a sense of autonomy returns. No contact allows you to reclaim your energy, rebuild boundaries, and regain perspective without interference. The longer it continues, the more your internal power grows, while the narcissist's reliance on external feedback becomes painfully apparent. This contrast is the true power of no contact. It does not require confrontation, punishment, or drama. It works quietly but effectively. Your absence destabilizes them, forcing them into a space of internal agitation, while simultaneously allowing you to rebuild and strengthen your own identity. Over time, this divergence in experience shifts the dynamic completely, demonstrating that real transformation comes not from engagement or reaction, but from consistent, unwavering silence that prioritizes your healing above all else. As no contact extends over time, the narcissist eventually reaches a point where their internal agitation can no longer be ignored. What began as temporary relief or strategic withdrawal transforms into a creeping sense of instability. Unlike someone capable of reflection, the narcissist cannot use this silence to grow or understand themselves. Their identity is heavily dependent on external feedback, attention, reactions, and emotional energy from others. Without it, the carefully constructed persona that projects confidence and control begins to fracture. They may oscillate between denial, rationalization, and obsession, constantly trying to understand why you aren't responding, why their usual strategies no longer work, or how they can regain influence. This stage often manifests in subtle but persistent behaviors, monitoring your social media, replaying past interactions, or imagining ways to provoke a response. Every boundary you maintain, every unanswered message, every refusal to engage compounds the internal pressure. Unlike you, who are using the silence to heal, recalibrate, and reclaim your sense of self, they are experiencing destabilization. The absence of supply is a direct threat to their fragile identity, creating tension and cognitive dissonance that can be uncomfortable, confusing, and destabilizing for them. Meanwhile, your experience continues along an entirely different trajectory. The silence allows your nervous system to settle, your thoughts to clear, and your sense of autonomy to return. Boundaries are reinforced naturally, energy is reclaimed, and clarity grows. This divergence is the heart of what happens when both parties go no contact. One side experiences freedom, healing, and internal growth, while the other faces agitation, destabilization, and an unfulfilled dependence on external validation. Ultimately, this is why no contact works so profoundly. It is not a tool of revenge or punishment, it is a mechanism for natural consequence. By maintaining silence, you allow yourself to rebuild and thrive. While the narcissist is forced into a space of growing internal tension, revealing the fragility of their identity and dependence on supply. Over time, the dynamic shifts completely, demonstrating that true power lies not in confrontation, but in consistent, unwavering absence that prioritizes your healing above all else.